Hi, my name is Laura, and this is going to be a very different type of video for this channel. I had started making a film about our dog Edgar back in January. I started gathering clips, putting things together, and then I just kind of put it aside. And Edgar died last week. He was 7 years old. He had epilepsy, and it was still a shock to us despite that. The story of Edgar is also the story of our family. It's the story of our boys growing up from children into teenagers and basically young adults at this point. And it's the story of all the wonderful time we shared with our best boy, Edgar. Edgar was a Vizsla. He was a sweet, sweet animal. We're gonna miss him terribly. We're all heartbroken, but I needed to make this video and I needed to tell his story. We made the family decision to get a dog on a hike in November of 2015. We were on the trail to Bash Bish Falls on the border of New York and Massachusetts and passed dozens of dogs along the way. Before I get into the story of Edgar's life, I know there will be questions because he's a purebred Vizsla. Why did we go to a breeder to get a puppy instead of rescuing a dog? Long story short, we had another dog before Edgar, a few years before. John and I rescued him. He was our first dog, and he was a massive challenge. His name was Ferris. Loved him to death, but he had some behavioral issues that we attempted to train him and work him throughout his whole life, and we never were able to sort of get ahead of those issues. So he caused us some heartache. So when we decided to get a puppy with young children, we really did our research and we made the choice to go to a breeder and get a Vizsla because they're known to have very good temperaments, get along with children and cats. We have 2 cats, so that was also really important to us. So that's a little backstory. Sorry if you have an issue with not rescuing dogs. We rescued all our cats. We rescued our first dog, and we had good reasons for wanting to know what type of dog we were getting with Edgar. Sadly, with purebred dogs come a variety of genetic issues and potential problems. We knew that was a risk going with a purebred, and unlucky us, we got the dog in the litter that had epilepsy. None of the other puppies have it, to my knowledge, and the parents did not. And the breeders were extremely lovely, reputable people who cared deeply about their dogs. So they had lineage going back many generations, and there was no hint of epilepsy. So we just got unlucky with Edgar. We took the car ferry to Long Island in January and met Edgar and his siblings for the first time.
Just so you know, okay, that's good.
And they were in a wire crate like you guys.
No, he's the blue one.
He's a big guy.
Yeah. There are 2 that were big, remain big.
Okay.
And he's cleaning his brother.
So that's, now he's a little more active, as you can see.
I see. Oh,
Yeah.
John.
She's got them all.
I want this one though. I want to hold it.
There you go. Him.
Oh my goodness.
No, relax.
Oh, it's okay.
He doesn't want to sit still long enough.
We brought him home in February, and he instantly became an important part of our family.
Thank
When Edgar was a puppy, we would take him out walking and trying to socialize him, all the things you do with a young dog, and we were kind of overwhelmed by the comments we would get anywhere we went. I think if you're a beautiful person, this might be your experience in life. Just wherever we went, people would comment on what a beautiful dog he was and ask what his name was, and they would treat him differently than our other dog and other people's animals that I've been around. It was just kind of a phenomenon where people were sort of taken aback by him. And I feel like those who are born beautiful must go through a similar experience, and that's got to be it's got to have its pros and cons. But Edgar just loved everyone, and he didn't know he was a gorgeous, photogenic dog. All he cared about was being with us. He was my Velcro dog, like many Vizslas. He was always by my side, and that's all he cared about. He was a happy, happy dog. He had a good 7 years.
Okay, you can slap.
Edgar had his first seizure in 2019. He was staying with my dear friend while we were on a family trip to Oregon. She called me and told me she thought he'd had a seizure, which was kind of a shock because nothing like that had ever happened before, and she wasn't sure what it was. And I thought maybe she was overreacting, and I wasn't sure what had happened. And so she monitored him, and he seemed to be fine. So we brought him home after that, and a few weeks later, he had a seizure at home, and it was shocking, and we knew at that point there was a problem. We went to 2 different vets. We went to a canine neurologist, but not a lot is known about idiopathic epilepsy. They took blood work and did tests to rule out any other problems that might be causing the seizures, but Edgar was a healthy dog in every respect. So idiopathic epilepsy is something that just occurs, and there's not a lot known about it in humans or animals, sadly. We tried all the medications. Phenobarbital was the first one, then potassium bromide. We did the potassium bromide with the phenobarbital. Then we tried Keppra, and there was overlap, and we did CBD drops. We don't use pesticides in our yard, and I'm pretty much all about natural cleaning products, natural food, things like that, but we were really careful to make sure his diet was clean and organic, and there were any other things that could potentially be triggers for these seizures, but There was no rhyme or reason. I logged every single seizure he had throughout his life, and they generally came everywhere from 1 to 2 weeks apart on the right combination of meds. At the end, it was Keppra. The best we could do was we got him down to 1 a month, but they came once a month like clockwork. Sadly, we got used to the seizures. John and I got a routine down, and even the boys, if John wasn't around, for how to deal with him while he was having a seizure, to keep him safe, and especially afterwards, because that was the challenging part with Edgar. He would go manic after a seizure. He would often lose his sight, hearing, his senses, in trying to run and bumping into things, and if we weren't careful and let him loose, he would just take off, which he did once. He ran up. Thankfully, we found him in our neighbor's yard, just up the road, but he just took off. That's all he wanted to do, was run after having a seizure, so we had to be super careful to keep him safe, both during and after, which was a challenge, but we had a routine for all that. So while we got used to it, we never really got used to it. Every time I would hear him start convulsing, I would have a stressful reaction to it. It caused me anxiety, and if I would hear certain noises around the house, sometimes I would start to panic, thinking it was him having a seizure, even if it wasn't. So yeah, I don't think you ever really get used to it, and I can't imagine what it was like for him or anyone dealing with epilepsy. There's no control over what's happening. It's pretty scary. The mean lifespan for a dog with idiopathic epilepsy is only 8 years, so I guess we knew that and kind of shoved that information into the back of our minds because we didn't want to think about what that could look like for Edgar. I don't want to get into the details of his death, except to say he had a series of seizures. We administered emergency Valium, and it wasn't enough. He couldn't come back, and he died on the way to the emergency vet. So, pretty traumatic for the whole family. I wanted to make this video to help anyone out there who might be struggling with a pet with epilepsy. I know when he first started having seizures, we were definitely not prepared for the road ahead. And while it got easier maybe logistically to deal with the seizures and the aftermath of them, there's no guidebook for pet owners, and it's different for everyone, and some pet owners are able to control their animals' seizures with medications. It works for some dogs and cats and not others. No rhyme or reason to it, as far as we can tell. But if there's anyone out there who is feeling lost or in need of support, I hope this can be helpful. And ultimately, like I said in the beginning, I wanted to share the story of Edgar because he was a special dog. He changed our family. His story is so near and dear to us, and it's the story of our lives over the last 7.5 years. And it's easy to be sad about his passing, but I'm trying to be happy about the time we had with him because he was like a little Energizer battery. He was just a ball of happiness. And when I was feeling down, I could cuddle up with him and soak up some of that positivity, and it was such a great feeling.
Edgar was by far the happiest animal I've ever known. I learned so many good lessons from him, just about how to be joyous and how to be present, and how any moment can be an amazing moment if you try hard and you're in a great mood, which you're always in. I mean, I've had happy dogs, I've had moody dogs, I've had cranky dogs, I've never known an animal to just be this joyous from the moment he woke up. Hopefully we can remember those lessons and keep that joy around, because that's really what I want to bring forward from this dog. I want to remember that joy, and keep it with me at all times.
He was basically integrated into every part of our lives. So walking, all the things I normally do throughout my day, they were mostly done with Edgar. So I'm now having to figure out how to do those things without him. And that's going to be my struggle. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and sharing the story of Edgar and our family over the past 7 years.